it's really a joy to have all of you here at this very special occasion. And, as curator of the Mission House, this is a time I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and it's very special. We have completed the restoration of the Mission House, and the final phase of that was the completion of the annex, which actually was Reverend Lyman's principal's office and barter room. It's in the original location, and it has never been open to the public. So we did a lot of, did some soft demolition and some restoration, and has been put back to its original configuration and in its original location. So you get to see it tonight.
Thank you, Jill. Jill is the curator of the collections and exhibits, and on behalf of the trustees of the museum, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight, this evening, and this is really a kind of a very important event in the history of the Mission House, because this puts back the Mission House the way it was in 1845. On behalf of the trustees, I want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank Jill and her staff and Spencer, the architect who kind of supervised all this, for the great work they did in restoring this room. So thank you very much.
Well, aloha everyone. Jill asked me to make a few remarks about the process that we went through on this restoration. And it had several parts. Initially, the very first piece that we did was archival research, and that really started with a historic structures report, which is the sort of terminology for doing research on a historic building. And that we did in 2002. So we've been working on this project quite a long time. Then we did on-site demolition, and then evaluation after that demolition, and then more research, and then the interpretive plan. And so the result that you see tonight is really a long process. So we looked at the space, and the next step was to take it apart, to take out all that 1931 installation after carefully photographing it, after carefully drawing it to historic American building survey standards. That detective work, and sometimes I feel like I should be called Dick Tracy, because I'm really trying to work backwards in a space to understand it. The main frame of the annex is ohia timbers. In some places, the bark is still on those timbers 165 years later. Most of the flat work, except for the floor, was koa planks, and some of that is still existing in the exterior siding that's on today, as well as the sheathing in the attic space. But in order to really understand the layout of the office, it was necessary to look at the construction, how the mortise and tenon joints went together, and whether they went up or down or straight in. And by those angles, you can tell whether there were diagonal bracing there, where the walls were. We were able to tell where the windows were and where the doors weren't. And really, by working backwards and through the construction detective work, figure out how the space was laid out. So usually on a project, that good stuff, all the construction and the ohia with the bark on it and all that kind of stuff, is covered up. But in this project, we've left one of those walls for you to see, a demonstration of how plaster was installed originally on the office. But this was a special project in another sense. There were many volunteers on this project, both in the demolition, and it was dirty demolition, believe me. If you're pulling a ceiling down, it's really dirty. Measuring for the Historic American Building Survey drawings, photographing to very tight archival standards, photographing everything in the process, and then research and more research and more research. But it was really led by a remarkable team, and at the museum, Jill and Jeff and Lynn and Dennis and all the staff and all the volunteers. There are many hands and hearts on this project, and it has really been my joy to be a part of it. Thank you.
I also want to thank, there were many, we got money for the house, the restoration, through many grants, but especially the G.N. Wilcox and the S.W. Wilcox. Now they're family, right? So to the Lymans, and they've just been wonderful throughout the years, giving us money, believing in what we were doing. So I really want to thank them. And so that the Lyman's legacy will live on. There was a wall here and the living room, and the beautiful Douglas fir floors. They're from the 1930s, very old wood. They're about 3/4 inch thick, beautiful. As you might have seen some of the before pictures, we had someone come in and refurbish them, and again, they're just gorgeous. They really came alive.
All of these pieces, were they made?
This is all furniture that was made at the Hilo boarding school. And these are actually photos, early teens of the boarding school. When Levi Lyman, that was the grandson of Reverend Lyman, was headed, and actually his wife took care of the wood shop. And these pieces, some of them are in the photo, or very similar to them, and these are all koa. Every piece of it is koa, drawers, everything. Solid koa. It's beautiful, very beautiful.
So like Jill talked about, the door being here and a door being over there, and we knew that these walls were here because in the ceiling beam going across here is a hole for the diagonal bracing that used to be here. So like you can see over there, that diagonal bracing goes up to a beam and then into a column in the corner. That same hole was here and down there, so that we knew this was a wall. We also knew that window was there. That was boarded up before. It was siding going across on the outside, and there was this two lovely jalousie windows over here. We knew that that window was there because the holes for the studs on either side of the window were holes in the top and the bottom, and it was the same dimension as the holes that were over here for this window. So we were able, sort of by deduction, to figure out where the windows were